Today, we are opening up a digital cold case. It's the story of a company that wasn't just a business. No, it was a core childhood memory for thousands of people. And then, one day, it was just completely erased from existence. This is a story about how a memory itself can just disappear.
You know, it's kind of like a digital Mandela effect. Just try to imagine an entire generation of kids in Lithuania who can all perfectly recall the same voice from the same computer game. I mean, they can literally hear it playing in their heads right now. But if you try to look it up today, poof, nothing. It's a phantom.
So this shared memory is a PC game called Sniego Karalienė, or The Snow Queen. It was this beautiful, magical point-and-click adventure game. But here's the thing that made it so incredibly special. It was fully professionally dubbed in Lithuanian. In a world where every other game was an English import, this one spoke their language. It wasn't just another game for them, it was a piece of growing up.
And that, right there, is the heart of the mystery. The game has vanished. And I don't just mean it's hard to find. I mean, it is gone. The company that made it, the voice actors, any record of its creation, it's all been completely wiped clean from the internet. This isn't just rare, you guys. This is what investigators call actual lost media. So where in the world did it go?
To even begin to understand the disappearance, we have to meet our victim. The company's name was UAB Akelotė ir Co. And back in the late 90s and early 2000s, in a post-Soviet Lithuania that was just so hungry for technology, they weren't just a business, no, they were cultural heroes. See, back then, big Western games were a total luxury that very few families could afford. So Akelotė and Co., they were brilliant. They carved out this perfect little niche, affordable educational games that they could sell to parents as, an educational investment. But their real secret weapon? Full Lithuanian localization. All of a sudden, you could walk into a supermarket and find games on the shelf that spoke to kids in their own language. They literally became the gatekeepers of digital magic. For a solid decade, they were kings of the market. And then, they were gone. But this wasn't some quiet closure or a boring acquisition. No, it was an evaporation. One day, they were a major publisher, and the next, it was like they never even existed. And this, right here, is where our investigation truly begins. Now, looking at the timeline, this wasn't a slow decline. It was an absolute collapse. The sequence of events is just so telling. In 2008, boom, lawsuits hit. They're being accused of selling games without the proper rights. Just a year later, right in the middle of the global financial crisis, they declare bankruptcy. Then there's this really sudden, kind of suspicious change of director. And by 2013, the company is illegally scrubbed from existence. Every good cold case has a person of interest. And for Akelotė, our person of interest is the director, a man named Ramūnas Davidavičius. Now, he wasn't just running this one company, he was connected to this whole web of other shell-like entities. But the truly bizarre part, the guy who ran the single biggest game publisher in the entire country has absolutely zero digital footprint. He is a complete ghost. I mean, just think about that for a second. A tech CEO from the 2000s with no interviews, no photos, not a single thing online. It's like he was deliberately scrubbed from the record, right along with his company. How does the head of a major publisher just vanish without a single trace? Okay, so this is where our investigation takes a really sharp turn. All this time, we've been focused on the Lithuanian publisher, right? But they were just the localizers. They didn't actually code the game. Which brings us to the real question, who did? And here is where it gets crazy. When online investigators actually dug into the game files themselves, they found the truth. This beloved national treasure of Lithuanian gaming, the one game that was so celebrated for speaking the local language, was originally Russian. It turns out Akelotė was licensing its games from a Russian multimedia company called New Media Generation. And here is the bombshell. The people who founded that obscure Russian company, they went on to create Wizart Animation. Yeah, that Wizart Animation. I mean, just think about that insane trajectory for a second. The little CD-ROM game that completely vanished in Lithuania was basically an early prototype for what would become a massive global animated movie franchise. The exact same story from the exact same creative origins. While Akelotė was being systematically erased, its Russian counterpart was busy growing into an empire. So where does that leave our poor lost game? Well, the only place it exists today is on linkomania.net, which is this old-school, invite-only Lithuanian torrent site. In this really strange twist of fate, the pirates have become the only archivists. They're the last remaining keepers of this digital memory. But even in this digital graveyard, our ghost can't rest. The only known copy of the game that circulates on this tracker is broken. It's corrupted. So you can download it, sure, but you can't actually play it. The memory is literally trapped inside a dead file. And this right here, this is the game's tombstone, a fatal error message. The game was built for ancient Windows 95 architecture, and our modern computers just can't run it. The file itself is probably damaged from years and years of digital decay. Technology itself has become the final lock on this prison door. So why can't anyone just fix it? Well, the answer is brutally simple and honestly, kind of sad. When Akelotė went bankrupt, all of its digital assets, the source code, the master files, everything, they were officially valued at zero. To the liquidators, it was just worthless data. It was probably all stored on a dusty old stack of CDRs that were simply thrown in the trash. And that's really what this all comes down to. The disappearance of Akelotė isn't just another failed business. It's the story of a real cultural artifact being completely erased. It's a cold case for a memory that's shared by thousands of people, with all the evidence just slowly rotting away. And that leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question. The Snow Queen is just one game from one publisher in one country. So how many of our own digital memories, our own childhoods, are trapped right now on obsolete disks and dying hard drives, just one fatal error away from being lost forever?